Okay. Record will show the presence of the defendant, not counsel, except Mr. Salmons. He's not here. Will he be here?
He'll be here shortly.
Okay. So, oh, here he comes. Yes, there he is. Okay. So, Miss Elise.
Your Honor, we're about to have testimony from Mr. Mooney. I have to complete his testimony today. And I understand that in the rebuttal phase, the state intends to call a witness who will challenge Mr. Mooney's credentials and challenge his legal claims. And so if this witness is going to be allowed, I've got to refute that because I won't be able to call Mr. Mooney again to refute it. And so either this witness, which I believe is a collateral issue, like a miniature trial as to whether or not my elder is authentic. You know, we've provided another set of documentation, including his DNA done by the FBI. So check it out. The DNA report from the FBI is in there.
35%.
I'm presenting this to you again, Your Honor, in a nice booklet form with my motion tomorrow about religious offenses. So, but the issue is this. If they're going to call Professor Clinton as in the rebuttal phase to attack Mr. Mooney's status, his status with the government, his status with the Native Americans, his status with whatever, what he's going to do is he's going to open up that there's a division in the Native American, the First Nations people, where many of them are aligned with what's called the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs supervise the massacre of many, many tribes. And then they just continue to be, basically the Bureau of Indian Affairs manages a nation within a nation, and they have, you know, full powers. And so Mr. Mooney and a number of Native Americans, a number of indigenous elders have stepped away from the Bureau of Indian Affairs because they believe that the Bureau of Indian Affairs is responsible for their children being taken, for their ceremonies being wiped out and replaced by things like a Catholic attitude. And I'm sorry, this is very specific. I know I keep saying Catholic, but I'm sorry, Your Honor, it's just what it is. So there's a bias that they're going to bring up, and I must either address it with my witness today or preclude the witness, and it's up to you. I'm willing to dive into this bias and the separation of the Native Americans into two camps, at least two camps, or we're not going to have the witness. Again, when I explained it to my advisory counsel, Mr. Green, he said it sounds like a collateral issue to attack your witness. And I have to say that they have had a transcript of Mr. Mooney's testimony since the evidentiary hearing in April of 2014. So to call this witness to discredit Mr. Mooney at the rebuttal phase, it seems to me they should have provided this witness in their original direct statements because they knew they were going to have to attack Mr. Mooney's credibility, yet they chose to do it in rebuttal when I can't use my witness to rebut it. So this is the issue, and it's either like we have the witness coming, then we must discuss this bias between people who are not in Bureau of Indian Affairs and people who are, or we just don't have the witness and we don't have to go into it.
Okay. I don't know anything about this witness. Mr. Leiter?
Judge, he is a professor of law at Arizona State University who specializes in Native American law. He's going to say that whatever Mr. Mooney is going to say in terms of what laws he thinks protected the Phoenix Goddess Temple, he's just going to say, oh, that's nonsense. And that the actual law does not allow any of what Mr. Mooney attempted or continues to attempt to do to circumvent the law. He's going to properly inform the jury of what the law is, which is the state's right to rebut that anticipated testimony. Let me take a step back. Not anticipated testimony. We actually had moved to try and preclude all of this, but nevertheless it came in a trial, and so the state has a right in a rebuttal case to rebut what we anticipate Mr. Mooney's going to testify to.
So,
and if Ms. Elise wants to talk to him, certainly we will arrange that. That's her right.
okay. So, And his name was disclosed, so you could have interviewed him to find
His name
out.
was disclosed a week ago, Your Honor, and I will do that pretrial interview, but that's not, the details don't matter. I understand this gentleman's position. He has a certain position. And there's a whole body of law aligned with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So if we're going to have the witness, then I'm going to ask the court to allow me to address the issues that we expect Mr. Clinton to bring up. Professor Clinton.
I'm not talking about the Bureau of Indian Affairs or this divergence of the Native American Church with the Bureau. I'm going to call him for the limited purpose of saying whatever laws he claims or however Mooney is interpreting the laws or misreading the laws is wrong. That's the limited purpose. We're not going to go into a big discussion of the Native American Church or, how this person came to be, anything like that. It's for the limited purpose to say and to properly inform the jury who has been misinformed for the last 3 months by Ms. Elise of what the law is.
Okay, so Ms. Elise, if you need to go into some background for your witness in order to have his testimony make sense, I guess you can do that.
I'm going to have to, Your Honor, because there is a schism in the First Nations people among those who align with the established order and those who remember the ancient ways and want to do it differently. And I have to address that because it's an actual schism in their body.
All right, as long as you do not prolong it. All right, let's bring in the jury and get going.
Oh, Judge, I'm sorry. I'm not sure, but I am speculating. I believe
Now, I'm going to say one thing. I got to say.
Ms. Elise, at some point during Mr. Mooney's testimony, will attempt, as she has throughout this trial, to elicit hearsay from Bill Montgomery, specifically comments Bill Montgomery made to the media through James Mooney, in part because I know James Mooney was present for at least part of a press conference that Mr. Montgomery made some comments.
He threatened to arrest him, Your Honor, when he came down to defend the church. And I just...
Yes, and so...
I'm going to say, why are we allowing this Professor
Okay,
Clinton
hold
when he's going
on.
to do your job, Your Honor, and interpret the law?
Ms. Elise,
All right.
let Mr. Leiter finish. Go ahead, Mr. Leiter.
I am just anticipating Ms. Elise is going to try and go into that. Mr. Mooney was there at that. I don't think it's relevant. She can ask that question. I'll probably object to relevance, but any attempt to elicit hearsay regarding what Mr. Montgomery said is improper, and I'd ask that you admonish her not to go into that line of questioning because everything said at that press conference is in fact hearsay.
All right.
Oh, boy, is it hearsay. Oh, boy, is it hearsay. Yes, it was hearsay, published as hearsay.
Okay.
Your Honor, they've taken all that down. They're embarrassed of what they've done. That press release is no longer findable on the website. They took it down from Mr. Montgomery's channel. He's embarrassed. He took it down last fall. My issue is this. Allowing this person with these credentials to come in as a lawyer, as a Native American tribal
The
court
real lawyer,
judge.
he's not an air quotes lawyer.
He's a tribal judge. I looked him up last night. I read into his background. He's a tribal judge, Your Honor. He's going to have, I just want to say, please, over and over and again, you've not allowed any witnesses to interpret the law, and yet I hear this person coming in to interpret the law for the jury while you're sitting there in your gown, being the applier of law. I am very uncomfortable with this, and I will be making a motion to disallow this witness so that at least I can go on record about this, because they're going to use this witness as a second judge. They're going to use his credentials as a tribal attorney and judge to make all of this look incorrect. And that is that would then have this man interpreting the laws, which he does not get to do.
Well, before we get to whether or not this witness gets to testify, let's hear from your witness so that we know what we're even talking about. So let's move forward. It's already 11:22. We need
I'm
to get...
sorry, Your Honor, and one quickie, but a week ago, when I made that request to scrub the undercover recording, and it was, when we spoke of it, the agreement was, go ahead, take it, bring it back, we don't care. I asked about chain of custody. Is there going to be any concerns about how it was handled, who handled it? When I contacted the best person in town, turns out they have a contract to do this for this court, and he was very concerned with chain of custody, and so ever since, there's been this email, and what he said he needs to come pick it up is that this court perhaps Randy, perhaps, I don't know, Janet upstairs, would email and say, these are your windows to come and pick up this evidence. I plan to play it on Monday, and I've had these requests floating, and he doesn't want to do it except with a proper chain of custody. So I'm asking for the court's assistance.
Okay, you can let this individual know that he can come and collect the disc or the piece of evidence from the clerk during regular business hours, which would be 8:30 to 5, not during the lunch hour.
Okay.
Today or tomorrow.
Okay, he said he wants an email because he doesn't want to come over without an invitation, something like that. That's what his correspondence.
Okay, you'll have to give that information to Randy, and he can let them know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and the state has agreed to release this exhibit to this.
Judge, what we had done, we've been in contact, it's Brian Neumeister.
Oh,
What we had done is we had indicated we will bring, he wanted the originals. We brought, there was only one original. We brought the rest of them. Detective Campbell's had them all week. We told Miss Elise, bring him here and we'll give them over to him. But
Your Honor, I gave him a number of windows. I said, come in the morning at 10, come at...
just give Randy his email. Randy will send him an email and let him know that he can come and get them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, let's bring in the jury.
Yeah. I made my request of APDS to pay for it too. I know. We'll ask. He's just going to show his prejudice against his faith. That's what I'm calling it.
okay.
Okay, and then she ordered some exhibits from the hearing. Have you seen those anywhere?
Oh, I got to go get them.
I mean, no, I really, I see my phone.
Mr. Leiter, what day was that hearing
March 10th, 2014.
March 10, 2014, there were some exhibits. Susan ordered. I don't know if they've been provided, or if not, maybe Janet can go pick them up.
Okay. Maybe today.
Maybe today, for this witness. Well, probably after lunch.
Because I can go with it.
So here's what, this is what this client says. It says, it's a different case, not a different case. So what he says is this doesn't apply because there has been federal court, because basically says defendants are able to qualify for possession of blah, 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 blah. The federal court has said the final judgment that drug laws do not preclude ceremonies without a permit. How he addressed it is that this was the board decision, which I pointed out. He says this decision that was 16 years before the fact.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and counsel. Ms. Alicia may call the next witness.
This doesn't apply. That's it.
Let me just check to make sure. Admitted. You may publish. So right up here to be sworn, please.
Please state your first and last name.
J. My last name? Mooney. M-O-N-E-Y.
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Right around here, sir, and have a seat, please. You may.
Honor, I don't know if the state will object, but one of the biggest issues that we're having is that people do not understand how the religion of Tantra, God Goddess, has anything to do with Mr. Mooney's Native American culture. And he brought with him his peace pipe to demonstrate the bowl is the mother's womb, the stem is the father, they're joined, it's tantric. He wanted to make a demonstration. Will he be allowed to do that?
Are you going to object?
So,
It
I just-
proves the Tantra connection. He wants to explain the male-female with the pipe. It's part of their, and the sweat lodges, those two things. He wants to talk about those two things because they have to do with the union of male and female, their ceremonies.
so this is the first time I'm hearing about this, because in the evidence hearing, he certainly, I mean, I guess it's something that they
We talked
probably
about
made up in the
the
last 3 years, but, so the idea is the pipe.
Made up?
Hold on.
I'm sorry. So, as I understand it, the pipe now has some tantric significance. Is that what I'm understanding?
Your Honor, the three religions that are on trial, and I know you don't think that, but for us, we feel like our religion's on trial. And a big claim that has been made that the jury and everyone doesn't understand is, why would the Native American Church help a Tantra temple? Why would the Native American Church help a goddess temple? Why would they help someone doing sacred sexuality? And he wants to
I'll
use
just ask
these
Ms. Elise,
physical objects.
It's more appropriate if she talks a little bit softer so that the witness doesn't hear. I mean, the idea is the witness isn't hearing exactly what you have to say. So,
I don't think he's hearing, but in any event, if you lay appropriate foundation, he may make a demonstration as long as it's very brief.
Okay, thank you.
okay, that's better.
Okay. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in from Utah to be with us today.
Well, I consider it an honor.
Thank you. I would like to start with, would you please give your name for the court and spell it?
My name is
Including your
James Warren Flaming Eagle Mooney. You want me to spell that?
Well, we've actually published it. Thank you. And Mr. Mooney, when were you born?
January the 3rd, 1944.
And where were you born?
Grass Valley, California, in a military hospital.
Okay. And, sir, I put this up. There's been a lot of, I'm just going to start with your identity at a blood level. I'd like to start with that, and then we'll move forward. Okay. So what is this exhibit? You provided this to me a number of years ago. What is this?
That exhibit was something that the federal government attorneys sponsored to have me take, because they questioned in whenever it was, 2005, the federal government filed an indictment on me saying that I was a fraud, that I wasn't Indian, and etc. And so the investigation, a part of the investigation into seeing who I really was that they gave me a DNA. And what was interesting is that
Objection, narrative.
Sustained.
Why it shows only 35% Native American? Is that enough to be considered Native American in this country?
Oh, absolutely. And with the state of Texas and the safety, they say that in order to be able to acquire peyote legally, you have to be 25% Native American. And
So one of your grandparents, something like that.
yeah, it was my grandparents. My grandmother was full blood, and my grandfather was, I believe he is half.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. So in the eyes of the federal government, you are Native American.
Objection, relevance.
What?
Sustained.
Okay. So this document proves what, Mr. Mooney?
That I have the quantum of percentage to be a Native American. Okay?
Okay.
And so the government knew that I had to be, in order to acquire peyote, if I wasn't part of a federally recognized tribe, you have to be at least 25% Native American to acquire peyote. And that's the reason the government gave me this testing. I mean, that was not my idea, it was their idea. And what was interesting.
Objection, narrative.
Sustained. Next question.
Okay. So this is your bloodline, Mr. Mooney, but please tell me about your family tree. What makes you Native American as far as your actual family members?
Well, I'm actually related to a Seminole warrior and medicine man called Osceola back in the 1800s. And I have, and that's what this discovered, this DNA, because of the folklore, my tribal storytelling. That's how we keep our culture alive, is through the ceremonies where stories are told. And it was told to me, which I did not know, but my tribal chief said that I'm a descendant of Osceola's escaped black slave. That was his wife, and I'm a descendant of their daughter. And so when this DNA came out showing that I'm 35% Native American, and then the Sub-Saharan African, they just, well, holy mackerel.
That's your family too.
That's my family tree. And the issue was in the 1800s that the Seminoles fought off the displacement of the government wanted to come in and take our land.
Relevance.
Sustained. Next question.
Could you tell me, please, just a little bit about the Seminole tribe? Some of us may have heard of the Seminole people. Would you just tell us a little, just briefly, what is the Seminole tribe?
The Seminole tribe is actually a combination of
Relevance.
Hold on, sir. Approach, please. What does the Seminole tribe have to do with anything?
Because actually I saw a document where they said that this isn't even a real Native American tribe. Like, I don't know where I saw it yesterday, but are you willing to acknowledge the Seminoles as a real First Nations tribe, or do we need to talk about it? I saw it somewhere that
I don't even know what you're referring to, Miss Elise.
Okay, if you want to ask the question, is the Seminole a recognized tribe, ask that question. Okay, these open-ended questions are...
Elder Mooney, is the Seminole Nation federally recognized as a Native American group?
yeah. I mean, the Seminoles, the ones that were captured from my clan, were transported to Oklahoma. My great-grandparents, though, escaped off the Trail of Tears. And so they settled in southern Missouri. And because there's a bounty of $200 or land.
Objection, narrative, and relevance.
Sustained. Next question.
So in your family tree, religious persecution is a way of life?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's been there for many generations?
Yeah.
Okay. And your particular nation actually was one of the First Nations that really took a stand against the cultural assimilation.
Oh, absolutely. They ended up not signing any peace treaties. And there's only two groups of Native American people that didn't sign any kind of peace treaty. One is the Seminoles,
Objection, relevance.
my band, Aquila Band.
Sir, sustained. Next question.
And who is the other tribe? I just want to know.
The medicine people of the Lakota Sioux.
Thank you. And so you're also part of the Lakota Sioux Nation?
Absolutely.
Okay. And is the Lakota Sioux Nation recognized by the federal government?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Mooney, you were not always a medicine man. You are a medicine man, correct?
Yes, I was dedicated by my grandparents at the age of 4, and then reinstituted in 1992, I believe it was. I went to the green corn ceremony in Orange Springs, Florida. That's where our traditional tribe is. And I was dedicated as a medicine person for the tribe as a a sacred prayer pipe carrier in that ceremony in front of 200 or 300 people.
Okay. And when you said reinstated, so age 4, your family dedicates you to this service, but then a number of years go by.
Yeah, because of my heritage, what has been told to me by my tribal chief is that different elements of our society, they wanted to kill me because I'm a direct descendant of Osceola as well as James Mooney, who is the author of the first bylaws of the first Native American church in 1918. And that is a very, I mean, I didn't ask for it or whatever.
It's what happened in your family tree.
Yeah, and so when the tribe found me, they told me it took them 20 years to find me, and they did find me.
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Mr. Mooney, I'd like to talk a little bit about your life before you returned to the indigenous culture full time. You had a long period in your life when you weren't doing Native American culture on a daily basis.
That's true.
What was your first job, Mr. Mooney?
It had to do with restaurants. I ended up being a consultant and I ended up becoming an international consultant. And when I did that, I felt that being an Indian was a disgrace because the popular belief was Indians are just drunkards and lazy and not doing anything. And so anytime somebody asked me if I was an Indian or something, I said, hell no, I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't do that. And then my wife died of cancer, and I was bipolar manic depressive of 1,800 milligrams of lithium a day. And I was about 40 some odd years old, 1987 when it was. And I was totally incapacitated. I couldn't do anything. And then I get this telephone call from my tribal chief saying that, is this James Mooney? I said, yes, it is. James Warren Mooney? I said, yes, it is. And then she said, welcome home, we found you. They had been searching for me for 20 years because they wanted to have, get themselves federalized, which my tribal chief didn't want to do. But the council, she had a council of 12 people. They wanted to get federalized, and she said the traditions of our people is that there's this
Objection, hearsay narrative.
Sustained. Next question.
Why did your elders, there was a conflict between the leader of your tribe and then there was a council, and the council wanted to federalize. What does that mean? Kind of
It means that they
government?
could get money from the government and stuff like that. I mean, it's, where they could get Indian welfare programs and things. But my tribal chief, she didn't want that. She wanted to be independent, but she wanted to please the tribal. And so that's the reason they really put a heavy search out for me, because my grandparents had gone to the green corn ceremony, and that's been going on since the early 1800s, and told them that there's this James Mooney that's related to all these people, and we don't know where he is. My grandparents told them that, told my tribal chief. And so I've been part of the history of the Seminoles, the Auckland band, ever since I was born. And
Okay. And there's an interesting to note that the Native American Church for the entire United States was created, co-founded, written by your great-great-grandfather.
that's right.
And please tell me about your great-great-grandfather, James Warren Mooney.
James Mooney was a...
Hold on, sir. Hold on. There's an objection. Thanks.
Mr. Mooney, why did your great-great-grandfather enact the Native American Church? Why did he go to Congress and ask Congress to create the Native American Church?
Objection. Judge.
Hold on a minute.
Objection, relevance.
Approach, please. Why is it relevant?
Your Honor, again, it's relevant because when they bring the other witness, they're going to attack that the Native American church isn't a recognized tribe.
Yeah, but the question was, why did he do that? Why did his father go and have it? Just the fact that he started the Native American church in 19 whatever.
Is enough.
Yeah, why do you need to know why?
Well, his intent is inherent in the act.
Well,
The intent of forming the church is inherent. We know why he did it because of what he did.
you could just ask when it was formed. I mean, why he did it, why is that relevant?
You're right. I guess it isn't. It was to protect the ceremonies that were being destroyed by the incoming. I put this in my paperwork, Your Honor, that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, had a directive that all pagans and Native Americans would be made slaves and their lands and everything taken from them and being made slaves permanently. And I showed that doctrine in one of my pretrial motions that I just filed in October of 15. And so we're really talking about a societal situation where the ruling class, which happens to be Christian and Catholic, and they had a directive to take the lands, enslave the people from the Vatican, and they did it.
Okay, well, there's a lot of history here that's very interesting, but it's not relevant to the issues in this trial, so I'm going to sustain the objection.
Wondering where this came from.
So there was a lot of pressure on the First Nations indigenous culture to drop their ways and be Christian, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I understand the Smithsonian Institute helped your great-grandfather to create this church. Is that correct?
Objection, relevance, Judge?
Oh, goddess.
Overruled. Jimmy, answer yes or no.
Can I answer?
The Smithsonian Institute helped your grandfather?
Yes, it was, and it was considered. There were elements that did not want the Smithsonian Institute to support the survival of the Native American culture. And when my grandfather argued in front of the Congress, where they had a law to outlaw it, he argued in front of Congress saying you can't outlaw the entire American Native culture. And so he, and then he went to, when they...
Objection, narrative.
Sustained. Ms. Elise,
Okay.
next question.
And so this is your bloodline, and this is your family's personal history.
Yeah, yes.
Now, I want to just pick up a little bit of your life before you really went back to the church full time. You worked in law enforcement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us just briefly about your career as a law enforcement officer.
I worked 7 years in deep undercover in the state of Utah and Washington County. And then I developed, I was asked by the Paiute Nation to conduct sweat lodges inside the prison system. And because the Native American medicine people sued the state of Utah so that they could actually have their ceremonies in, which now a law is set up called the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act of 2000, which allows our sweat lodges in any prison system, any incarceration situation. But because of the tremendous...
Objection, narrative.
Sustained. Next question.
So you worked in law enforcement, and you're quite familiar with you. How did you leave law enforcement as a career?
It was an interesting thing. They wanted, even though I set up this program, which I was an employee, a state employee, as an officer, I was hired by the Department of Corrections to develop a program utilizing Native American ceremonies to eliminate recidivism or to lower recidivism. And I kept the paperwork. I had a $8,000 or $80,000 budget, and I had a secretary, and I ran the whole program myself with the secretary, kept accurate records. And after a year and 18 months, I filed a report to the Department of Corrections, which actually lowered the recidivism from 90% to less than 30%. And
Objection there.
Sustained.
When you say that recidivism, you mean you dropped the number of people who returned to?
yeah, I mean, it's
Objection, relevance.
significant.
Sustained.
Okay. And that program continues to this day?
No, that's interesting. Someone, do I elaborate? I'm afraid to talk. No, the answer is no, it's not.
Why was the program because it had a success rate of helping people not return?
A tremendous success rate.
Objection, relevance, Judge.
Sustained.
Just for the moment, what was the name of that program?
Last Shot, the Last Shot program.
And it involved Sweat Lodge, peyote journeys.
Not peyote. I didn't use peyote inside the prison system. I only used sacred prayer pipes, which I brought, and a sacred breath ceremony and sweat lodges.
Okay, so there were sweat lodges performed inside.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, and you also, even though you left law enforcement, you continued a relationship with law enforcement through LEAP. What is LEAP?
LEAP is a law enforcement against prohibition.
What does that mean, against prohibition?
Against the laws on drugs. And it's a accumulation of almost 1,500 ex-prosecuting attorneys.
And relevance, any of this, Judge?
Sustained.
So you're an activist in social reforms when it comes to natural medicine?
In the law enforcement thing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to finish filling out who you are a little bit, are you married, Mr. Mooney, currently?
Pardon me?
Are you currently married?
Oh, yeah.
And would you just tell us about your partner, just briefly?
Oh, just, well, between the two of us, we have 15 children, and probably, last count was 38 grandkids and 4 great-grandchildren. And we've been married for more than 20 years.
And so Linda Brighthawk Mooney is the co-leader of the church?
She's the co-founder.
Co-founder, okay.
And she's presently conducting ceremonies all around the country. And because while I'm doing these kinds of things, I cannot do ceremonies. Because when you're doing ceremony...
Yes, explain why you can't do ceremony.
It's because you have to, when somebody asks for help, you've got to be able to say yes. I have an edict from my tribal chief that I cannot ever refuse anyone asking for help. And so because I'm doing so many expert witnesses around the country, federal and state and all these other things, from Hawaii to Pennsylvania, I can, when somebody comes to me for help, I don't know if I'm going to be around. And so I'm what they call right now emeritus. I'm a Native American medicine man emeritus.
Another page of Exhibit 75. Mr. Mooney, at some point, you decided there is the Native American Church, which is a broad body of First Nations people.
Mm-hmm.
Do they all agree?
No.
So the church your great-grandfather founded actually has a huge, there's a number of Native American churches.
Yes.
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are all of them under Aqua Law, Native American churches?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So Aqua Law
Very much so, yes. My wife. Mm-hmm. What is what?
This is your,
State of Utah, and as you notice, it says certificate of existence, because Aquila Native American Church is actually what they call a free church. And in 1867, Ulysses S. Grant signed into law under the Dawes Act that in relationship to the Rosebud Reservation, that it is recognized as a religion without being incorporated. And the Native American Church of Rosebud is the only church that I'm aware of that actually has that special distinction. And so the reason I got the certificate of existence was to
Sustain. Next question.
So, you took every step to create a church which would meet the requirements and needs of the government.
absolutely.
Why did you take great pains to put all your papers in order, and why not just leave?
Well, I was asked in 1994, I was approached by the North American Native American Church. And the reason they approached me was because they learned that I was a descendant of James Mooney, and they wanted me part of their church. And so they gave me cards and the whole thing, and I wasn't really active with them, okay? And then one time they called me and asked me if I would show up at one of their council meetings. And so I did, and I came in there, and they voted, they wanted to instill a new
Narrative.
vice president.
Okay, and I know at this point, you're moving from a life in law enforcement to rehabilitative programs.
Mhm.
But there was a point where you stopped everything and went full-time into church.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to take the noon recess at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, please return at 1:25. 1:25, please remember the admonition. You are excused.